I'll ask Ms. Only to call the roll.
McBride,
Yes.
Teratio. Motion passes.
The next item is the adoption of our agenda. That's item 3. Is there a motion?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'll second it. Any discussion or any adjustments to the agenda?
No adjustments.
Thank you. Ms. Only, will you call the roll regarding the agenda adoption?
McBride,
Yes.
Teratio.
Yes.
Motion passes.
That brings us to item 4, compensation recommendation, the pay plan for Alvin S. Glenn Detention Center. This is an item for executive session under section 30-4-70, meetings which may be closed, procedure, circumvention of chapter, disruption of meeting, executive sessions of General Assembly. This is A3, public body may hold a closed meeting to the public for one or more of the following reasons. 3 is discussion regarding the development of security personnel or devices.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move to go into executive session for discussion of pay plan for Alvin Glenn Detention Center, and as well as personnel and equipment for Alvin G. Glenn Detention Center.
Thank you. Is number 5 also an executive session item?
Number 5 is actually the executive session item.
Oh, that is, okay, sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Okay.
number 4 is the,
Well, 4 is
Oh, okay.
compensation. Is that,
So this information, so the way you find out about pay information this general information, I believe, is okay for the public because that's how we got the information. We just called and asked for. And if we post salary information on the website to get people to apply for these jobs. So I believe that it's okay to have this information. Plus, we want the employee to be able to have access to this information. So I believe it would be okay for discussion. I did not ask the county attorney about the pay item being an executive session because I thought that in general this information could be, but it may be different in South Carolina. I did not ask.
well,
yes, ma'am.
it has executive session on the agenda
Yes, ma'am.
for
That was,
item 4.
that was the way I looked at that. It looked like it was above item 5.
Oh, okay.
But maybe I can have the clerk to speak to that to clarify.
So we will not be discussing an increase in pay.
We will be discussing the increase in pay and the pay plan itself, which is increasing in pay, yes, ma'am. But I did not expect that we had to have the discussion in executive session.
Okay, so it's just the way the agenda is printed out. So the executive session item actually goes with number 5, and number 4 we can discuss here.
Based on my understanding, yes, ma'am.
Great. So let's take up number 4, the compensation recommendation, and we do have an agenda briefing to go with that. And I know that we have staff here. ACA Thomas is here. Staff from Alvin S. Glenn are here. Mr. Brown, would you like to start off?
Yes, ma'am, if you would, please.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're doing is we're asking this committee and members of council to approve this pay plan. And the reason why we're doing this is because Alvin S. Glenn Detention Center does not have an actual pay plan. Similar to other areas in the county, there are pay grades, and then things kind of go into those pay grades. So the reason why, even though the county administrator has the ability to approve salaries, because there is no structural plan and I'm asking to institute a structural plan, that's what I'm really asking the committee to do, is to approve this plan. And then within the confines of the plan, the county administrator with his authority and through his team will then deal with individual salaries. But all of these salaries on these plans would be increases for all detention officers in Alvin S. Glenn. So this pay plan does represent at the level 1 for all of these positions, increases for all those members who are in those positions today. So that would affect current employees, and thus the request for the pay plan rather than just doing this on my own. So it's a structure issue that I'm coming to the committee to have approved.
Do you have any?
Yes, ma'am. Could you briefly explain your level 1, 2, and 3?
So yes, ma'am. So level 1, 2, and 3 is going to be a component. Well, first of all, level 1 is just at your current position. You come into the county with your basic set of skills. So you don't have to have, any advanced anything. It's literally we're hiring you. For example, if you're coming in as detention officer 1, you're just basic. So all of those positions would be looked at level 1 at your basic for that position. As you go up the scale, you see that we have longevity built into there. And as you go across the scale, that will be based on when we work with the detention staff, my belief is that's going to be 2 components. One, it would be education and certifications. So those things we haven't detailed out, but in general, that's what you would look at. Education and certification would be how you would move horizontally across the scale. So does that answer your question, Ms. McBride?
Somewhat. And then the other part, I see that once you reach 3 years, then if you're at level 1, you could move to level 2. I'm seeing the detention in terms of salary.
So
because if you look at the detention officer 1 to 3 years, they have level 1 that's $37,000.
Correct.
And if you look at 0 to 1 year, it's $36,000. But if they continue for 2 additional years and make 3 years as a level 1, then they could meet the salary for $37,000. Are you following me?
Yes. So
okay.
let me use this as a good example. So let's just say I'm coming in as a detention officer that has no experience in correctional institutions anywhere. So brand new to this type of work. I would come in now because of what county council has already approved at $36,500. And then let's say I now have worked as a detention officer for 3 years. So I would move vertically on this scale down to a detention officer with 1 to 3 years at $37,230. And then if I worked 3 years and 1 day, I would move down to 3 to 5 years. So that's how that would work. So besides a person being rewarded for their tenure with Richland County, the next couple of things that an individual could do, and again, we have to get the details of this internally at this program, but we will look at how have you educated yourself. So whether we're going to be looking at degrees in criminal justice or related fields, or certifications that would represent an increased level of performance for a detention officer and thus create an increased level of efficiency for the detention center, then that's when you start moving horizontally across your levels 2 and your levels 3. So those are things that we would work internally with the detention officer, detention staff, as well as any other association, best practices that would say, here is where increased value was added. Okay, yes, ma'am.
And we used to call it career ladder.
Yes, ma'am. That's exactly what we're doing. We're building in a visible career ladder so employees with the detention center can see what they can expect just by working here, what they can do to improve their own rate of pay beyond what the county may do in the future in terms of pay increases.
My final question. How does this fit in, given that we are already below salary range for the top counties in South Carolina? How does this career ladder or these the funding amount put us in terms of ranking?
We believe now that, and I certainly can have ACA Thomas and then have the detention center director speak to this if he's looked at these salaries now, but we believe that based on the most recent information that we looked at, that this now makes us competitive. And in some respects, when you look at various scales, we may be at the top and then we may be in the middle. Not every position are we at the top of across every county in the state, but at the same time, are we lower than either in the larger county? So I know last time Director Myers gave some information on this, so he certainly can speak to this now, but we believe that these increases are reflective of what it would be, can be competitive, not only in our region, but also with other counties if people were leaving here to go to larger counties within the state compared to Richland County. So
and I'm really concerned about being competitive with some of the larger counties.
Understood.
Because I'm not as concerned about being competitive with some of the smaller populated counties, even though some of them are paying more than we are, is my understanding. So are you saying that this would make us more competitive with the larger counties, these salaries?
I'm saying they will, yes, ma'am. But again, we have the detention center director here as well. I would certainly, he weighed in last time, and I certainly would like to hear his input as well. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Madam Chair. According to going back to what Administrator Brown said, according to the information that we received from the South Carolina Jail Administrators Association, we did a poll or a survey, I want to say sometime between March and April, to where we were trying to figure out what was the starting salary, because a lot of the information we got from, so it was conflicting with a lot of information we received from the South Carolina Association of Counties. And we did find that we were probably one of the lowest paid correctional facilities as a county as big as it is compared to Spartanburg, Greenville, York, Horry, and Charleston. We were behind, but with the current rates, they did put us up to where we're much more competitive now.
That's what you're saying. The current rates will do us, but it still keeps us behind them.
Yes, we're not all the way up front, but at least we're being competitive now.
Sure.
Mr. Brown, I am very concerned about, prior to you coming in, and council's actions in terms of not remaining competitive with counties our size, population-wise. So this plan, and I know that you have the authority to, determine salaries. This plan, to me, does not go far enough to make us really competitive, but not only competitive in terms of the needs of these workers and the cost for living in Columbia. I mean, the wages are really extremely low, and not only that, it's the livelihood of the detention workers is important, and how they're supporting their families, and what this says about us as a county. So that concerns me, that I want Richland County to be a leader, and that concerns me regarding, I'm grateful that we are doing something, but it doesn't appear to me that we're doing enough.
Shall I respond? Okay. So, Ms. McBride, certainly County Council and even the committee, I believe I would be ecstatic, and I believe the staff members would be ecstatic if the council were to devote more funds toward this initiative. To your point, I'm trying to work within the context of the funds that we already have, and also address an item, as you had mentioned, that has not been addressed for a number of years. And so to have that funding available for us to be able to do this and to account for the needed funds to do this, I'm working with all those constraints. But if the county council, wants to do more, again, the detention facility has no structure. This is the first structure that the county has for this area, and so I hear what you're saying, and I would just to the point of the budget director, and I think Mr. Malinowski's question in the previous meeting, that it's important to recognize that this will be a funding concern. And so I support doing more. I'm just trying to work within the confines I have in doing more and doing it for all of the detention center and being able to afford it as well.
I share your concerns, but right now I'm thinking about the lower wage employees at the detention facility. And is there a way, and I know that it is a funding issue, but I think we're always going to have a funding issue. And sometimes we may have to make those hard decisions. Is there a way that there could be some type of, at least given the current circumstances and conditions that we're under, some type of bonus? And I know that you're not one that truly supports the terminology bonus. But as I've been reading and seeing across, in South Carolina, period, the Department of Corrections, which we pull some of the same people, they're offering a $7,000 bonus. And I think that for us to be competitive, but not only, again, to be competitive, but to be fair and to help our employees, that maybe we should consider, if we're going to look at this level 1, 2, 3, and the possibility of changing it next year or increasing the amount of money, that maybe this year we could find a means, even if we have to look at recovery fund, whatever.
Yes, ma'am. To your point, we did, as a part of the coronavirus ad hoc committee meeting, which would actually be on the council's agenda tonight, the committee did move forward with a COVID-19 hazard pay stipend as a result of the premium pay under the American Rescue Plan. And if the council moves forward with that, that would qualify detention personnel for a $5,000 payout. And that was at the committee level. Certainly council could also decide to do more, which again, I would support council's action. So that's one mechanism that you have, and just be aware that that's coming to council tonight. That was approved through committee and is on council's agenda tonight for that particular opportunity, which would also impact detention personnel. In terms of addressing, the salaries, I guess this is a significant impact, and maybe if I had to use another word, you were looking for maybe a substantial impact, which would be beyond significant. And we certainly can look and see what we can do to afford that. But yes, ma'am, it would be a determination by council as to what other things you may be willing to forego in order to address the county's needs in the detention center, and then as well as other areas where, to your point, the county just hasn't fully addressed in years.
I think it's something that we as a consider that advisory or the work that the I think was much more involved than other employees, and that we as a community
Thank you, Ms. Mc. I have a few questions myself,
Yes,
and I'll just kind of start down my list. So one of the things for my part, I'm happy to approve this plan. And as I look at the levels and opportunities to attain increases by gaining education and certification, I also want to ask about, as we look at being competitive, what other plans we might have in place for benefits, opportunities to advance. Are we making space for people to advance their education and certifications? Are we facilitating that? Can we, and I know you just sat down, Mr. Myers, and you might be the best person to speak to this, but is there a plan for that to help people move forward and make space for their career, to move up a career ladder?
At this current time, no. I think that's one of the things that we were looking for this is just phase one, as if I'm not wrong. There's a second phase is going to come, because you still have to address long-term employees and making sure we keep them also.
Got it. And then my other question is just with total rewards that we approved maybe 2 years ago, how does this line up? Is this kind of above and beyond the total rewards compensation plan? Is it in alignment with it? How does this tie in with that plan?
So let me try to be polite about
Okay.
total rewards
Sure.
because unfortunately, whatever the positive impact total rewards was supposed to have from a compensation standpoint, employees of the detention center and other employees don't feel like that was a positive impact. The county did maybe a part of it and did not invest in the full implementation of it at one time, which I think unfortunately gave people a non-positive view of it. In our conversations with members at the detention center, routinely they would ask about the total reward study and what happened with the implementation of it and the funding for it. And they're not big on doing things in phases. So when I talk to them about us even doing this as a phase, and technically if we were doing phases, this would be phase 2. We approved phase 1, which was to bring everybody up at a detention officer level to a minimum of 36.5. So that's already been approved. That would be phase 1. This phase 2 would not only include maintaining individuals who are currently employed by Richland County and supporting their tenure and improving increases on their tenure, but it also gives them actually a career plan. So what you don't have right now is an actual career ladder. An employee cannot look across the board and see how I can in the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years matriculate in terms of salary, or what steps will it take for me to attain a higher level within the detention center, and then what will that salary be? So this provides a level of consistency. It provides a view that employees can look at and see on their own without being salaries being based on what they perceive to be something other than, I don't know, how does my salary get to be $5 versus $10 when I've been here just as long as somebody else? So this kind of really answers all of that. And certainly we can look to, raise all of these levels, but it really is the foundation for what you're asking. It really begins to communicate there is a ladder for you, and here it is. You can visibly see it and track it, and it provides that level of confidence that as you take these steps, you know what it is that you can look forward to. Not saying that doesn't exist in some shape, form, or fashion now, but it's not visible. You cannot ask a detention officer, what will you make in 3 years? What will you make in 5 years? How do you get there? How can you impact that? I think if you were to ask them and speak to them like they spoke to us, they would tell you, I don't know. That's not up to me. That's up to administration. And that's not an accurate statement.
Thank you for that. And then last question, I think about this, as we can, the item on the COVID ad hoc from the COVID ad hoc committee regarding like a $5,000 payout. That would be for existing employees, people who are already existing employees. I guess my question is, what date would they have had to be working at Richland County for them to be eligible for that?
The council would need to decide that.
Okay.
So we're going to basically say that at the point in time, which would be the end of March, where those group of individuals could be vaccinated, that we would put that in as a recommended time. But that's something that council has to make a determination on. It has not done so at this point. Okay,
great. I think that's it from any other, Ms. McBride, anything come up for you? Okay. I believe we are ready to vote on this item. Go ahead.
That's okay. Madam Chair, I move, would you like a motion?
Yes, I would love a motion on this item.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the staff's recommendation to implement a new salary structure for the ASGDC based on the information provided to us by Administrator Brown.
Second that. Miss, any further discussion? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I'll ask Ms. Only to call the roll.
McBride,
Yes.
Teratio.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Perfect. That will bring us to item 5, and this is the executive session item. I read out all of the reasons, so I'll just give the short, this is per section 30-4-70A3, discussion regarding the development of security personnel or devices. So item 5 is personnel and equipment for Alvin S. Glenn Detention Center. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
Madam Chair, I move that we go into executive session to discuss item 5.
I'll second that. Ms. Only, will you call the roll for executive session?
Yes, ma'am. McBride,
Yes.
Teratio.
Yes.
Motion passes.